My name is Austin Pierce. I'm 48 years old, and on March 11th, 2025, I got fired by email after 16 years of building a $2.3 billion company from the ground up. They thought I'd disappear quietly. They were wrong about that. The email came at 3:47 p.m. while I was watching my son Lucas give a campus tour at UC Berkeley. 4 sentences that erased 16 years. No phone call. No explanation. Just a corporate execution disguised as a form letter. What Richard Caldwell didn't know was that I owned something he desperately needed, something worth more than my entire career, and I was about to make him pay for every single one of those 16 years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, where my family shopped at Walmart and considered Olive Garden fine dining. Never had the luxury of a computer science degree from Stanford or MIT. What I had was discipline and countless late nights teaching myself to code. I genuinely believed that hard work could change the world, that if you put your heart into something, it would pay off eventually. For 16 years, I was the backbone of Vanguard Tech, one of Silicon Valley's rising giants. Every single line of code that powered their cloud infrastructure came from my fingertips. While executives in their glass offices talked strategy and threw around buzzwords like synergy and disruption, I was in the trenches building the actual foundation that kept their $2.3 billion valuation afloat. My salary had grown from $85,000 to $210,000 over the years. Excellent money for most places, but modest compared to the millions the suite was pulling in from stock options and bonuses. I didn't mind. There's something almost meditative about writing clean, efficient code. Each function, each algorithm was like solving a puzzle that would make thousands of users' lives easier. I'd arrive at our Palo Alto offices at 6 a.m., grab my usual large black coffee from the lobby Starbucks, and lose myself in the work until well past dinner time. My lower back ached constantly from 16 years hunched over keyboards, but I told myself it was worth it. The CEO, Richard Caldwell, was a different breed entirely. At 58, he was everything I wasn't. Yale undergrad, Harvard MBA, connected family, the kind of guy who name-dropped his weekend golf games with venture capitalists. He drove a Porsche 911 Turbo S, lived in a $6.2 million house in Los Altos Hills, and had that particular Silicon Valley swagger that comes from never having to worry about a mortgage payment. For years, our relationship was professionally cordial. He'd nod approvingly during my quarterly presentations, occasionally throwing out phrases like, "Excellent work, Austin," or, "This is exactly the kind of innovation that sets us apart." I thought we had mutual respect. I thought my dedication meant something to him. I was naive. The first signs should have been obvious in retrospect. The hushed phone calls behind closed doors, the sudden appearance of lawyers from Gardner and Lynch LLP shuttling in and out of conference rooms. The way conversations would stop when I walked into the break room, but I was too focused on a particularly complex server optimization project to pay attention to office politics. Then came that Tuesday in March. Lucas had invited me up to Berkeley for Parents' Weekend. He's 19 now, sophomore year, studying computer science just like his old man. I'd taken the afternoon off, first time in months, to watch him give a campus tour to prospective students. Made me proud seeing him up there, confident and smart, everything I'd hoped he'd become. That's when my phone buzzed. Email from HR. Subject line, "Employment status update, immediate." My stomach dropped before I even opened it. "Dad, you okay?" Lucas asked during a break, noticing me staring at my phone. "Yeah, buddy, just work stuff," I lied, forcing a smile while my world collapsed. I clicked it open right there in the California sunshine, surrounded by proud parents and excited teenagers planning their futures. "Dear Mr. Pierce, after careful consideration, we have decided that your services are no longer required at Vanguard Tech. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Please return all company property to HR by end of business today. Thank you for your contributions." That was it. 16 years of 60-hour weeks, of building their entire cloud infrastructure from scratch, of being the guy they called at 2 a.m. when servers crashed, reduced to a form letter that could have been sent to anyone. I sat there in the bleachers, parents chattering around me about dorm life and meal plans while I processed what this meant. Lucas's tuition was $18,000 per semester. I had exactly $23,000 in savings. Mom back in Dayton needed the $800 I sent every month to cover her diabetes medication on top of Social Security. My mortgage in Mountain View had 8 years left on it. At 48 years old, I was too old to start over but too young to retire. Lucas finished his tour and jogged over, grinning. "How'd I do, Dad?" "You were great, buddy. Really great. I meant it. Whatever else was falling apart, at least I'd done something right with him." Been 2 years since his mother, Sarah, left. She'd said I loved Vanguard more than her. Standing there that day, getting fired while watching our sun shine, I realized she might have been right. I'd sacrificed everything for a company that just threw me away with an email. The drive back to Mountain View was a blur. I kept KNBR sports radio loud, drowning out my thoughts with talk about the Giants' pitching rotation. Didn't work. My mind kept circling back to the same questions. Why now? What had I done wrong? Was this really just about cost-cutting, or was there something bigger happening? I could have stormed into Caldwell's corner office the next morning, could have demanded an explanation, made a scene, forced him to look me in the eye while he justified this betrayal. That's probably what he expected, maybe even hoped for. It would have made the narrative cleaner for him. Austin was unstable, had to be removed for the good of the company. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I showed up at 6 a.m. like always, saved my work, backed up my personal files to a USB drive, and started cleaning out my desk methodically. 16 years of accumulated life fit into 2 cardboard boxes, a small cactus plant my sister gave me, a world's best coder mug from the team's Secret Santa exchange, photos from company retreats to Lake Tahoe and Napa Valley. "Everything okay, Austin?" asked Brian Collins from accounting. "We used to play golf on Fridays before I got too buried in work to have a life. Just reorganizing," I said simply. No point creating drama for people who had nothing to do with this decision. By 4:30 p.m., I was walking out of Vanguard Tech for the last time, my Honda Civic loaded with the remnants of my career. The security guard, Carlos, gave me a confused wave. We'd chatted every morning for years about his son's Little League games. "See you tomorrow, Mr. Pierce." "See you around, Carlos." That evening, I did what any rational person does when their world implodes. I ordered a large pepperoni pizza, cracked open one of my homebrew IPAs I'd been aging for 3 months, and tried to make sense of it all. It was while scrolling through old emails, looking for any clues I might have missed, that I stumbled across something from 2018 that changed everything. A message from my old mentor, Dr. Arthur Wallace, who'd taught computer science at Ohio State before moving to a small consulting firm in San Francisco. The subject line read, "Patent documentation urgent." I'd completely forgotten about this email. Back in 2018, Dr. Wallace had reached out after hearing about some innovative work I'd done on distributed computing architecture. He'd insisted, almost demanded, that I file for intellectual property protection on a particular algorithm I'd developed for managing cloud-based data synchronization. Dr. Wallace wasn't like most professors. He'd taught my data structures class back in 1999 when I was a community college transfer student trying to prove I belonged at Ohio State. Most professors treated transfers like second-class citizens, but not him. He saw potential where others saw a kid from Dayton without the right pedigree. Years later, he told me why he cared so much about protecting workers' innovations. He'd grown up in Appalachia, daughter of a coal miner who'd watched companies steal safety improvements from the men who invented them. "My father came up with a ventilation system that saved lives," he'd said. "The mine owners took it, never paid him a dime, and he died of black lung at 52. I won't let that happen to my students." That's why he'd been so insistent about the patent. "Austin," the 2018 email read, "what you've created here isn't just clever coding. It's a fundamental breakthrough in how distributed systems communicate. File the paperwork. Trust me on this, big companies have a way of forgetting where their best ideas actually came from." At the time, I'd thought he was being overly cautious. Vanguard Tech was my employer. Anything I created belonged to them, right? But Dr. Wallace wouldn't let it go. He'd even connected me with a patent attorney, Nathan Brooks, who specialized in software patents and had a small practice in downtown San Jose. Nathan was a former Navy JAG lawyer who'd left Gardner and Lynch after they'd asked him to screw over a small inventor on behalf of a corporate client. He'd told them no and walked out the same day. "It'll cost you about $18,000 a line," Nathan had explained during our phone consultation. "But if this algorithm is as revolutionary as your mentor believes, it's the best investment you'll ever make." $18,000 was nearly 5 months' salary back then, but something in Dr. Wallace's voice, That urgency born from watching his father die forgotten convinced me to move forward. I'd used my entire savings account and taken a personal loan from my credit union to cover the legal fees. The patent had been approved in mid-2019. System and method for autonomous data synchronization in distributed cloud environments. Patent number US 10,147,623. Filed under my name alone, Austin Michael Pierce, as the sole inventor. I'd buried it in a folder on my personal computer and honestly forgotten it existed. Vanguard Tech had continued using the algorithm. It was, in fact, the core technology that powered their entire cloud infrastructure. But in all the chaos of daily work, quarterly reviews, and constant feature development, the patent had become just another piece of paper. Until now. I pulled up the USPTO database and searched for my patent number. There it was, still active, still valid, with nearly 14 more years remaining on its 20-year term. The algorithm described in those legal documents wasn't just some minor optimization or clever workaround. It was the beating heart of Vanguard Tech's competitive advantage. Every major client, from Netflix to Airbnb to dozens of Fortune 500 companies, relied on this technology to keep their data synchronized across multiple servers. It processed over 2.1 billion transactions daily and was directly responsible for approximately 78% of Vanguard's revenue. And according to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, I owned it completely. My hands were shaking as I clicked through the patent documentation. All those years I'd been so focused on being a good employee, on proving my worth through hard work, that I'd never stopped to think about protecting myself. Dr. Wallace had done that for me. He'd seen what I couldn't see, what I'd been too naive to understand. I spent the next morning at a Pete's Coffee in downtown Mountain View, laptop open, diving deep into patent law and corporate licensing agreements. The more I read, the clearer the picture became. Vanguard Tech had been using my patented technology for nearly 6 years without a proper licensing agreement. They'd simply assumed that because I was an employee, they owned everything I created. They were wrong. The law was crystal clear. Unless there was a specific work-for-hire agreement that explicitly transferred patent rights, the inventor retained ownership. My employment contract from 2014, which I'd saved in my personal files, contained no such language. It was a standard tech worker agreement focused on non-disclosure and non-compete clauses, but it said nothing about patent assignment. Dr. Wallace had known exactly what he was doing. He'd protected me from my own loyalty. I called Nathan Brooks. His office was still in the same modest building on West Santa Clara Street, the kind of place where small-time inventors and entrepreneurs went to protect their big ideas on tight budgets. "Austin Pierce," he said, recognizing my voice immediately. "I was wondering when you'd call. I heard through the grapevine about your situation at Vanguard. In Silicon Valley, the legal community was smaller than most people realized. Word traveled fast, especially when it involved potential patent disputes worth hundreds of millions. Nathan, I need to understand my options here. They fired me last week and they're still using my algorithm for everything. Let me be very direct with you," he said, his JAG training showing through. "You have them by the throat, legally speaking. Every day they use your patented technology without a license. They're committing willful patent infringement. The damages could be astronomical." We met that afternoon in his office, a cramped space filled with legal books and patent diagrams covering everything from smartphone components to biotech innovations. Nathan was in his early 50s, still had that military bearing, the kind of no-nonsense approach that made you trust him immediately. "Here's what I know," he said, pulling up Vanguard Tech's SEC filings on his computer. "They've been in talks with Horizon Solutions for 6 months about a potential merger. The deal is valued at $620 million, with the transaction expected to close by mid-May. Horizon Solutions was another Silicon Valley giant specializing in enterprise software solutions. The merger would create a powerhouse in cloud computing, combining Vanguard's infrastructure technology with Horizon's client management systems. The problem, Nathan continued, is that due diligence for a deal this size requires clean intellectual property. Horizon's lawyers will demand proof that Vanguard owns all the technology they're acquiring. When they discover that the core algorithm is actually patented by a former employee who just got fired," he smiled. "Well, that's what we call leverage. What do you want to do, Austin? We could send a cease and desist letter, demand licensing fees, or pursue full litigation, but timing is everything here. I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. How long does Vanguard have before they need to provide IP documentation to Horizon? Based on typical merger timelines for deals this size, they probably have 4 to 6 weeks maximum for complete IP documentation and clearance. Then we wait, I said. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Wait? I want to see how far they'll go with this merger before they realize they don't actually own their most valuable asset. Let them get comfortable. Let them start counting the money. Nathan leaned back in his chair, that tactical military mind working. Never negotiate when they're desperate. Wait until the pain is unbearable. I like it. Over the next 3 weeks, I watched the situation unfold from the outside, like a spectator at a baseball game where I was the only one who knew the final score. TechCrunch ran a breathless article about the blockbuster merger between Vanguard and Horizon. The Wall Street Journal quoted Richard Caldwell calling it a transformative moment for cloud computing innovation. My former colleagues were posting excited updates on LinkedIn about the opportunities ahead. Brian Collins shared a company-wide email about exciting changes and growth potential. Meanwhile, I was collecting unemployment benefits and sleeping better than I had in years. The first call came on a Thursday evening in late March. My phone showed an unknown number with a 650 area code. Classic Peninsula business line. "Austin, this is Richard Caldwell. We need to talk." His voice shook. The smooth CEO act was gone. "Hello, Richard. I'm surprised to hear from you. Cut the act, Austin. You know exactly why I'm calling. We just got the preliminary IP audit back from Horizon's legal team. There's a problem with patent US 10,847,623. I let the silence stretch for a few seconds, sipping my homebrew IPA and watching the sunset through my apartment window. "I'm not sure what you mean. Don't play games with me. That algorithm is the foundation of our entire platform. Our clients process billions of transactions through that system daily. If there's some kind of ownership dispute, there's no dispute, Richard. The patent is very clear about who invented the technology and who owns it." Another long pause. I could hear him breathing, trying to control his panic. "Look, we can work something out. Maybe there was an oversight in the original employment paperwork. We can backdate a licensing agreement, make this problem go away. What do you want? Stock options? A consulting contract? We're reasonable people here. I'm sure you are. But I'm not interested in backdating anything. That would be fraud, wouldn't it?" Dead silence. Thought he'd hung up. "Austin, you need to understand what you're doing here. This merger affects hundreds of jobs, thousands of clients, millions of users. You can't just blow up a $620 million deal because you're upset about being laid off. I'm not blowing up anything, Richard. I'm just a guy with a patent who got fired by email after 16 years of loyal service. What happens next is entirely up to you." I hung up. The next morning brought a flurry of activity. My phone rang 8 times before 9 a.m. Calls from Vanguard's head of legal, their chief technology officer, and 3 different partners from Gardner and Lynch. I let them all go to voicemail and spent the morning at my local gym, working through an unusually satisfying cardio session. By the time I returned home, there were 17 missed calls and a stack of emails that would have impressed a presidential campaign. The subject lines ranged from professional, urgent patent licensing discussion to desperate please call time, sensitive matter. The most interesting message came from Horizon's general counsel, Patricia Hoffman. "Mr. Pierce, this is Patricia Hoffman from Horizon Solutions. I believe we need to have a conversation about patent US 10,847,623 and its implications for our pending acquisition. I'm hoping we can find a mutually beneficial resolution. Please call me at your earliest convenience." Mutually beneficial. That was corporate speak for you have us over a barrel. Please don't squeeze too hard. Then, on Saturday morning, things got personal. I was making coffee when I looked out my apartment window and saw a Porsche 911 Turbo S in the parking lot. Richard Caldwell stood next to it, looking like a man who'd aged 5 years in 5 days. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit was wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes that suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. What caught my attention was the Tesla Model X parked behind him. In the back seat, I could see 2 boys, maybe 12 years old, playing on Nintendo Switches. His twin sons. He'd brought his family to beg. I watched from my second-floor window for about 10 minutes, debating whether to go down. Finally, curiosity won out. "Austin, thank God," he said when I appeared. "We need to resolve this situation." "You brought your kids?" I asked, nodding toward the Tesla. He glanced back. "Their mother's shopping. I'm watching them. Look, that's not important. What's important is, you brought your 12-year-old sons to watch you beg the guy you fired by email. That's a choice." His face flushed. "Austin, please, name your price. Stock options, cash settlement, a position on our board of directors. Whatever you want, we'll make it work." I looked at those kids in the Tesla, completely oblivious, playing their games while their father's empire crumbled. Reminded me of Lucas at that age. Before the divorce. Before I'd sacrificed everything for a company that threw me away. "What I wanted was to not be fired by email after 16 years of building your company," I said. "But that ship sailed. Look, I made a mistake. The layoffs were handled poorly. I should have called you personally, should have offered you a severance package, should have shown more respect for your contributions. But we can fix this." "Fix this?" I kept my voice level. "You want to fix 16 years of taking me for granted? Of paying me a fraction of what my work was worth? Of assuming I'd just keep building while you counted your millions? I'll make it right. Richard, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to license my patent to whoever wants to use it. Fair market rates, standard terms, no exclusivity agreements. If Vanguard wants to continue using my technology, you can pay for it just like everyone else. But the merger is your problem, not mine. You fired me, remember? I don't work for you anymore." He looked at his sons in the Tesla, then back at me. "Think of my family, Austin. Think of what this will do to them." That's when something inside me snapped, just a little. I did think of your family, Richard. For 16 years. I thought about them every time I worked weekends while you played golf. Every time I skipped my own son's baseball games to fix your servers. Every time I missed dinner with my wife until she finally left. I sacrificed my family for your success. And you fired me with an email. His jaw clenched. "So this is revenge?" "No. This is business. You taught me that. Employees are expendable, right? Well, turns out patents aren't. Have a good weekend, Richard. Enjoy the time with your sons." I walked back to my apartment and didn't look down again until I heard the Porsche drive away. Nathan called an hour later. "Austin, I'm getting calls from 6 different law firms. What do you want me to tell them?" "Tell them we're not interested in negotiating until after the merger deadline passes." He laughed. "You're playing hardball." "I love it, but you know this could drag out, could get ugly. It's already ugly, Nathan. Might as well make it count." The following Monday brought the news I'd been expecting. TechCrunch ran the headline, "Vanguard Horizon merger collapses amid patent dispute." The article was light on details, citing only unresolved intellectual property issues and failure to meet closing conditions. The Wall Street Journal was more direct. 620 million deal dies as cloud giant discovers it doesn't own key technology. Richard Caldwell's quote in the Journal was a masterpiece of corporate doublespeak. While we're disappointed that certain technical issues couldn't be resolved within the merger timeline, Vanguard remains committed to our innovative cloud solutions and our valued clients. What he didn't mention was that Vanguard's stock price had dropped 38% in after-hours trading, wiping out nearly $874 million in shareholder value. The company that had fired me for being unnecessary was now facing potential bankruptcy if they couldn't secure a license to use their own core technology. Nathan called me that evening. "Austin, my phone hasn't stopped ringing since the Journal article dropped. Half the corporate law firms in Silicon Valley want to represent Vanguard in settlement negotiations with you. The other half want to represent you in litigation against Vanguard. What's your read on the situation?" Horizon is sophisticated. They knew exactly what they were looking for in the IP audit. When they found your patent, their deal team called an emergency meeting. The merger can't proceed without clear title to that algorithm. Vanguard is in serious trouble. Within 2 weeks, I had 4 competing offers from major cloud providers who wanted to license my patent. Amazon Web Services came in with the most attractive deal, $35 million up front, plus 15% royalties on all implementations. Not bad for a kid from Dayton who used to think Olive Garden was fancy dining. Vanguard Tech eventually paid $68 million for a non-exclusive license, plus back pay for 6 years of unauthorized use. Their lawyers tried every trick in the book to reduce the payment, but Nathan was relentless. Every email they sent, every delay tactic, he countered with precision. "This is what I trained for in the JAG Corps," he told me during one particularly tense negotiation. "Rich people think they can outlast working people in court. Sometimes they need to be reminded they can't." Richard Caldwell was quietly removed as CEO 4 weeks after the merger collapsed. The board called it a strategic leadership transition. The tech blogs called it what it was, a firing. He'd done to himself what he'd done to me, except his came with more zeros and a lot less sympathy. I used part of my settlement to start a consulting firm focused on helping individual inventors protect their intellectual property. Dr. Wallace came out of retirement to serve as my partner. We named it Wallace Pierce Patent Advisory. Our first client was a brilliant young programmer from Detroit who developed a revolutionary approach to artificial intelligence training algorithms. She reminded me of myself at 30, talented and naive, working for a company that was already planning how to take credit for her work. "Make sure you file the paperwork," I told her during our initial consultation. "Trust me on this. Big companies have a way of forgetting where their best ideas actually came from." She looked at me the same way I'd looked at Dr. Wallace back in 2018, skeptical but willing to listen. "It'll cost you about $22,000 now," Nathan explained, handling her patent filing personally. "But it's the best insurance policy you'll ever buy." She filed. 6 months later, her employer tried to claim ownership of her algorithm during an acquisition. They couldn't. She ended up licensing it to 3 different companies for a combined $18 million. Dr. Wallace smiled when he heard the news. "That's 2 we've saved. How many more can we get to before I'm too old to remember what a patent is?" "As many as possible," I said. 3 years later, Vanguard Tech was a shell of its former self. The failed merger, the stock crash, the loss of major clients when they discovered the company didn't actually own its core technology. Caldwell's empire collapsed slowly, then all at once. I didn't buy the company, didn't need to. Wallace Pierce Patent Advisory was worth $200 million by then, with 40 employees and clients from Austin to Seoul. We'd helped 127 inventors protect their work, recovered over $340 million in licensing fees that would have been stolen by corporations. But I did hire 15 people from my old Vanguard team. Brian Collins was the first call I made. "Brian, you still looking for work?" "Austin? Yeah, Vanguard laid me off 6 months ago. Been sending out resumes. Stop. You're my CFO now. $180,000 base plus 5% equity in the firm. You in?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. The people who actually built things deserve to get rewarded, not the people who just talked about building things." Brian started the following Monday, brought his golf clubs to the office. We started playing again on Fridays, like old times. Richard Caldwell works at Salesforce now, not as an executive, as a senior manager in their Enterprise Solutions division. No Porsche, no corner office. Just another employee badge at a company that doesn't know his name. I heard he sold the Los Altos Hills house, moved to a condo in Sunnyvale. I don't feel bad about it. Lucas graduated from UC Berkeley last year, walked across that same quad where I got fired, except this time I was in the audience watching him get his diploma in computer science. He'd made Dean's List 3 years running. His tuition had been paid in full since the AWS deal closed. "Dad, I've been thinking," he said at his graduation dinner. "I want to join Wallace Pierce, learn the business, help more people like that programmer from Detroit." I looked at my son, 23 years old, everything I'd hoped he'd become. Smart, principled, not naive like I'd been. "First thing I'll teach you," I said, "always protect your work. Always own what you create, because the world is full of people who'll take credit for what you build." "Learned that from watching you," he said. Last week, Mom sent me a photo. She was standing in front of her house in Dayton, the one I'd paid off completely with the first settlement check. She was smiling wider than I'd seen since Dad died 12 years ago. "Your father would be proud," she wrote. "You did good, Austin. Real good." At 51 now, I finally understand what real success looks like. It's not about working hard. It's about working smart, and making sure no one can ever take what you built. That $18,000 patent fee back in 2018, best investment I ever made. Some people say I got revenge on Richard Caldwell. Maybe, but that's not how I see it. I see it as protecting what was mine, refusing to be erased, and building something better with people who actually gave a damn about the work. The irony isn't lost on me that I learned more about business strategy from being betrayed than I did from 16 years of loyal employment. Dr. Wallace was right. Big companies forget where their best ideas come from. They forget that their success stands on the shoulders of the people who actually build things. I don't forget. And now, neither will the 127 inventors we've helped protect their work. That's not revenge. That's justice.